Hey everybody, it's Barron Shannon from AlphaTrends.net. Today's Friday, the 27th of August, 2021, and the markets had a great week here. Look at the Russell really caught up this week, up 5%, semiconductors up 6%, oil up 10%. I mean, these are some really big numbers. Banks 3.5%. So, everything is pretty much up year to date except for bonds and the volatility index. That volatility index, of course, shouldn't be a surprise that it's lower in the year. But these are some pretty big numbers, and hopefully you're participating in at least the average way, and hopefully much better. S&P 500, there's not a lot to talk about. It's kind of a broken record. We're in an uptrend. We have higher highs and higher lows. We had a brief pullback this week below the week-to-date volume-weighted average price. It came down to the rising 5-day moving average, and buyers came back in today. And anyone who was positioned for a sell-off got squeezed pretty much. Going into next week, I think that this level will be our more important near-term level of potential support to keep an eye on. Otherwise, it's innocent until proven guilty. The Nasdaq, same story, came right down to the rising 5-day moving average. So I think near the 372-ish level will be an important level to keep an eye on. And of course, this prior band of resistance up in here from that range that we had broken out of. The Russell 2000, as mentioned, this was the big one. It came, it had a very strong rally up off of these recent lows. I thought maybe it was going to consolidate in here a little bit further, but it did break beyond this range, and now looks like it's poised to be able to continue to move up towards the high end of the range. Who knows? The way the strength is, maybe this time it carries on to new all-time highs, and I wouldn't be waiting to be a buyer for at a new all-time high. Now is the time to be involved. It just broke this key level of resistance. If you see any pullbacks, don't buy the pullbacks, but wait for strength after a pullback, and I think it's safe to be involved. At this point, I would say your stop, if would go under probably about 219.5. That's where we have that month-to-date volume-weighted average price. That's that blue line, as well as the low from Thursday afternoon. Semiconductors, as mentioned, had a stellar week, up 6%, and another new all-time high. So, they cut through that 50-day moving average, bounced off the volume weighted average price from the May low, and what a bounce this has been. Clearly, you don't want to be a buyer up here. I don't want to be a buyer up here, not after it's just gone from 250 to 272. We've just seen a really big, 10% rally basically here in a short period of time. So let these guys cool off if you're looking for new exposure in there. Perhaps, they settle down near the 267-ish level next week, but, don't be a chaser. Don't be the guy or girl who chases these breakouts and ends up holding the bag. The biotechs are back on track. They were a little bit slow here today, but they did break some important level of near-term resistance this week. So now, as I've been suggesting, I think if you're long in here, worst case stop goes underneath this level at about 160, about 170-ish. The financial stocks, they pulled back to the rising 20-day moving average, and they've been up and away here this week. We saw that on Thursday they pulled right back to the week-to-date volume-weighted average price. That was the low, as it was actually in the semiconductors yesterday as well. This is the week-to-date volume-weighted average price, and you can see Thursday morning they pulled back precisely to that level and then found buyers. But back to the financials, that's where the buyers showed up yesterday, and they followed through on the upside here today. These guys are at another new all-time high, which makes sense with the strength in this market overall. Energy names still kind of just really messy here. They've got a declining 20-day moving average, declining 50-day moving average, battling with the year-to-date volume-weighted average price. Oil was up big this week, so that's something to consider, but this group is just kind of a big mess here, so I don't see any near-term advantage of being involved in there. Some stocks I would keep an eye on next week would be definitely AMD. It got up to this prior little peak here. It broke beyond these volume-weighted average price levels. If you see a pullback down towards that 110 level, then look to be getting long on strength in AMD. Netflix even, this stock has been, kind of quite choppy actually, but now it's broken some important level in here. It'll be interesting to see if it can follow through. I'm kind of drawing a neckline because this looks like a shoulder, a head, and a shoulder here, which if that's the case measures for a pretty good upside target for Netflix. So I'd say keep an eye on that one. Tesla looks like it's healing once again and ready to this was the prior what I was looking at. It broke down from there, and now it's right back up. So perhaps now Tesla has the opportunity to do something like this and head up towards that 780 level. So keep an eye on that one. I've been involved in LTHM a lot lately, and profitable for the majority of the trades in there. I think though that next week the one in that group that looks actually a little bit better is Lithium Americas, symbol LAC. You can see it trades plenty of volume, 5.4 million shares. It's holding right on the year-to-date volume weighted average price, and we look down to a 15-minute time frame. It's held the rising 5-day moving average. I think back above Friday's high with a stop underneath Thursday's low might be a way to trade LAC. I would also keep an eye on Beam, BEAM. This is Beam Therapeutics. It's had this area that it's been involved in for a while, and now that range is tightening. I think you get it back above these little peaks of this week basically, that you could probably get involved with a stop, I'd say around 105-ish. Worst case, if you wanted to give it more room, down underneath the low of the week. But keep an eye on shares of Beam, Monster Beverage, MNST, also looking like it's getting ready to go again. Here's our volume weighted average price from the recent peak. Just keep that in your mind. That's the volume weighted average price from this peak on the daily time frame. So it's holding the rising 20-day moving average. We saw big volume on this upward surge, lighter volume as it's consolidating in here. The stock is up at getting ready for new all-time highs, and I think the key will be back above today's high. Should get that going. Worst case stop in there, probably just underneath today's low. So that'll do it. Again, hope you had a good week, and thanks for tuning in.